Hello, this is a review of the Invicta 1906 Specialty Collection Swiss Quartz watch. Now, I think the watch looks excellent. I think it is a classy, bold, interesting design that I really like. I think the coloring is great, starting with the color on the face, on the trim all the way around, the nice maroon reddish backdrop that shimmers in different lights, the hands that are easy to read and are lined in a copper color, the second hand that is easy to see for the most part. You'll see that as it being full copper, it shimmers under different lighting conditions, but is easy enough to see depending on how you hold your wrist the further you get away. I love the different sizes of the numbers on the face that I think make it look like a really great design. It has a deep look to the face. There's inch-like, tape measure-like hash marks all the way around for the middle times between each 5 on the dial, which I think is really cool. The whole face rotates as a timer, as an impromptu ad hoc timer. So you notice that some watches you can't rotate the face. On cheaper watches it's just a style, but on this one you actually can rotate it. So what you do is you take the hash, rotate it around to where the current time is, and I can get a general sense of how long it's been since the hash on the 5, 10, 15, 20, and so on, all the way around to 60 minutes. I like the offset knob onto the side rather than the usual knobs that go in the middle at the 3 o'clock position. I think it adds a really interesting style, and if I compare it to my usual watch that I like wearing, I think this here is a classy looking watch with a bold, interesting design, comparing it to my other watch. Now, notice that it's much bigger than the other watch. However, there are definitely some significant flaws to talk about with the band, most notably the smell, the rest of which is definitely explainable and could be seen as a superior rubber band. But if your preference is the jewelry look of a nice metal Lynx watch, of course, this rubber material is different. But if you look at the color, I mean, it's nice to have a nice brown band like this that matches off the coloring of the watch. However, it's still very noticeably, maybe not very noticeably, but is noticeably a rubber band. So I might still wear this with a suit because it's more obviously a piece of jewelry to match with more dressy attire. Whereas this one, from a distance, you can still tell the flat matte coloring of the band that makes it a rubber material. That might make it, you know, I wouldn't perhaps wear this with a suit. I mean, you might be able to eke by with it, but a watch like this is way more expected for something like that. So it's kind of like this band classes it down a whole notch, while the face, I think, is really interesting. Now the whole thing is much bigger. I mean, look at the thickness of this watch compared to the thickness of this, of my other watch. So you'll definitely, some people have commented that they had a hard time putting this under their shirt sleeve or something like that, whereas this one really contours on my wrist a little bit more. Notice how these other watches curve at the edges really easily. Now the rubber band on this is going to be a mixed blessing in functionality. And so number one is it's better perhaps in construction of quality material than your Timex or Casio watches. But notice that it's a lot thicker. I mean, a whole lot thicker. So if I zoom in here, I mean, this is a heavy, thick rubber band. I mean, it still flexes, but it flexes at different degrees depending on where it is around the band. When you get closer to the base, you know, over here, it'll flex less. So it causes it, if I just hold the watch, notice how, you know, it holds itself apart. Right? I couldn't set this down like this if I wanted to because it really holds its form. So it causes this area here to hold apart from your wrist just a little bit more, causes it a looser feel on your wrist rather than a leather band on some of the other Invicta watches that you can tighten a little bit more closely. Now, of course, run it through the latch is just fine. These rubber things can slide around here, and you can really, you know, you can get it in. They give you a whole lot of small different holes, so you get a lot of degree of ability to to close this around your wrist to make it to different tightness levels. So honestly, it works out, but the thickness is still noticeable. So if you're typing on a keyboard, this amount of thickness you can feel on the wrist rest compared to your other hand. But it's something that you get used to as you type. The flat aspect of it can cause it perhaps to get scratched more easily, whereas if it were had more design going on the watch, if you scratch down the middle, you may not notice because there's more lines and other things going on. I really don't have a scratching problem, but I have noticed, I don't know if you can see, it got scuffed just a little bit here and here. They tend to rub out if you rub them a little bit, but you can see how on the edges it does seem to pick up a little bit more, being the rubber material. Now, the biggest problem with this watch, which brings it down to an unacceptable consideration for me, is the smell. Now, at first, I thought the smell was unique to my watch. I thought somebody just reconditioned it with Lemon Pledge. I couldn't believe they did that, but I just figured it was a one-time deal, and I figured I would just clean it off. Well, so I actually set out to clean the watch off. Now, after cleaning the watch, it got ever so slightly better, but it came back within hours later of being just as strong. So cleaning it with concentrated dish soap, I cleaned the whole thing. I even put the head under running water to clean it off with the soap as well without completely submerging it, which I had no problems with, by the way. But I really scrubbed the bands. Now, it smells of Lemon Pledge. So at a distance on your wrist, it smells like a hint of lemon. But if you put it up to your nose, it's a very pungent Lemon Pledge smell. I mean, it literally smells like Lemon Pledge. So your degree of sensitivity to smells is definitely going to be a deciding factor in this watch here. Now, I would say the smell on this band knocks it down a good solid 2 stars in my book to make it only okay at best. So at 3 stars best because of this, even though I love the band, the face. It's my favorite of all my Invicta watches. But the smell is not so good. I can live with it on my wrist. I can live with the hint of lemon at arm's length. But the problem I had that makes me knock it down to 2 stars in the end is, honestly, so here's what I did. I washed the band off really well. It didn't really fix the problem. I decided, fine. Plastics pick up smells. It's just like food containers in your fridge. Plastic just does that. So maybe someone did clean it. I don't know. But check all the other lots. So I decided just put it on a shelf. I'm going to let it sit for a month. And while sitting, it only took a half day, and the entire room smelled of a hint of lemon Pledge that is, just by its mere presence in the room. I personally find it unacceptable that a watch's mere presence in the room would actually make the whole room smell a hint of Lemon Pledge. So for that reason, I call it 2 stars. I can't accept that. I'm going to let this air out for another 30 days and see how it goes, as long as I can handle the room smelling like a hint of Lemon Pledge. Otherwise, I'm going to put this in a Ziploc bag and take it out of the Ziploc only when I want to wear that and can handle the smell of it. So some people have commented that they like the lemon smell. Perhaps it'll be up to you. But honestly, it's not marketed as an air freshener or potpourri. So I think compared to other Invicta watches that have a rubber band that I have, like the Sabaco collection, that do not smell, all I can say is at least it doesn't smell like tires. You know, it could have been worse, it smells. I mean, if I had to pick a smell, I guess this is okay. But definitely buyer beware in terms of the smell. If you can handle a hint of lemon at arm's length, or a pungent smell if you put your nose right up to it. Again, of Lemon Pledge, not a tire smell. The box I think is great. It looks really cool. Got a nice little pillow that it comes wrapped in. Faux leather wrapped box, clamshell design, contoured top, stitching around. Makes a nice gift in terms of presentation. But I can't recommend it due to the smell at this point in time. But I love the design. Thank you.